Welcome beings from the known and the unknown. I'm Brie from Plots and Reviews, and today we discuss, give me a moment, this book, Zoey Punches the Future in the Dick, a book I was lied to by the cover and the title. There are no punches. So if you see this book and you're like, ooh, punches, let me buy it, don't do it because there are no punches. It's a lie. And this book, a book I was not lied to by the cover and the title, because it actually is about rivers in London. I appreciate not being lied to this way. So, yeah. So this was a 2 out of 5, and this was a 4 out of 5. But anyway, so we're coming back to this one. We're starting with this one, Zoey Punches the Future in the Dick by David Wong. Let's discuss why I hated it. First of all, Zoey Punches the Future in the Dick, right? So I actually read, what is it called? Just a moment. John Dies at the End. Loved it. It was great. It was awesome. And when I saw this one, I was like, ooh, nice title. Author I liked. You know, let me give it a try. I should have known better. In discussing both of these, actually, do you know when authors set up this premise and the characters are not very smart and they're put in situations where it's increasingly more ridiculous, to be honest, and they're in increasingly more dangerous situations and they have to figure their way out, and then the story becomes this whole thing about like their choices, what they do, and so on, right? So in this one, the scenarios weren't that ridiculous, but and in Rivers of London, the male character, he does try to sort things out. We're told that he's a bit spacey, which is reflected in how he does things, but he doesn't necessarily come across as stupid. He comes across as like slightly incompetent because he isn't attentive enough. He's a bit inattentive, but this woman is stupid. Okay, this woman, Zoey, she's an idiot, absolute idiot. And all of the scenarios in which she's put in, they just get increasingly ridiculous, but not even the good ridiculous, just the what ridiculous. So that scenario of things being increasingly worse in both books was a bit okay, so we're following that formula, fine. Characters being a bit spacey, okay, we're following that formula, fine. They're both sci-fi, right? This is not sci-fi. This is, well, to be fair, it says it's labeled as fiction, not necessarily sci-fi, which is good, but I found it in the sci-fi location of the store. Librarians and bookshop keeper people, this is not sci-fi. This is fiction. This is like fantasy. One instance of time travel does not sci-fi make, okay? This is not sci-fi. This is sci-fi. But this is more, it's somewhat like a more of a closer future sci-fi. So it comes across as something that could probably happen within the next 10 years. So it doesn't seem that far off, but it's still science fiction because you have a lot of technological advances that we currently don't know that we have. I mean, maybe we have them, we know how these people are. Maybe we have them, we just don't know. But we currently don't know about these things. So there are these giant mecha machines. There's tech that can be implanted in your body and, you know, it does a bunch of things. There are different devices that are used, that persons use, that allow them to really be immersed in the VR world, which we have now, but it's at a level that doesn't currently exist. And there are implications for Web3. So we're speaking about an online kind of global community where you can do a lot of things. You can buy property, you can build, you can start armies, and it's really a matter of you really having another life online and not something you could just buy into or invest. You actually have to like invest time and so on into the world. So that is part of Zoey punches the future in the dick world, which does make it sci-fi. So that was the first thing, because I haven't read like sci-fi in a while, probably like 2 months, but I love sci-fi, so that's a while. And I saw these, both of them, in a sci-fi area, so I was like, okay, let's give them a try, because I was interested in them. This one by chance, this one I had been for a while, so I was like, let's give it a go. So when I got Zoey Punches the Future in the Dick, I expected to read about a spunky, smart, young woman girl that somehow manages to thwart these futuristic robots or people who are sent back, and they're from the future, and she has created this empire, or she's now taken over this empire, and she is going to like beat them up, and like she gets physical, and I'm like, yeah, this sounds like my book. Instead, this is what I got. Spoilers ahead, so if you don't want any spoilers, well, any more spoilers, you can leave now, because it gets bad. So let's go through my list. First of all, I get this 23-year-old idiot, right, who is set up so poorly. Like, her mom is an ex-stripper cum sex therapist. She has big boobs, and she's overweight, and she has this weird jealousy kind of thing for this against this co-worker that she has that's like skinny, and the author keeps emphasizing this whole her having this issue with how this woman looks, and she doesn't look that way, and I'm just like, how is this relevant? So that's the first thing. Then there are a bunch of men around her, right? So there's only this other woman, everyone else is male, and her mom, everyone else is male. We have a vague description of what the mom looks like. We don't really know that much about what she looks like, which isn't that much of a problem for me. But this is supposedly her being very like progressive, forward. The author emphasizes what she looks like. We learn about her big boobs like very early on. We have this whole description of Echo, who is the one that she has this like little jealous envy thing with. We know what she looks like. But this female, she's supposedly straight, right? And like very straight and like very into men. We have zero descriptions about what these men look like. I don't know who the hottest man that she knows looks like and who he is. And that upsets me, because you do not write a book where you're there talking on and on about these physicalities of the women in the book, who has big boobs, who has a big bum, whatever. And then if you're pretending to be a female author, don't tell us about who the hottest man in the book is. How dare you? You can't do that. You can't do that. Not only that, but she is, like I said, an absolute idiot. So there are a lot of violent acts that takes place. Like people get their houses burned down. There are a bunch of things that happen just because she's stupid. And like she doesn't take time to think, and it's a thing in the book. And I'm like, then we have some random creatures that appear. Okay, so she has a cat, right? In this book edition, you're not going to see the cat, but in the other one that I'm going to post, you're going to see a cat. So the cat is there. She has this cat that basically is like her family member, and that's fine because I love cats. But the story even made me get irritated at cats for a little while. That's how upset I was. We also have this like arachnid cow creature that pops up, and this all has to do with everyone referring to her as a cow, and this traumatizes her because she feels that this whole city hates her, and as a result she just wants to be with the people who love and care for her. And so, you know, although she's pretending to care about certain things, it's not really the case. And just the thing, remember how I was like, none of the men is physically described properly, except for one guy. It's called Mega Boss, and he's a big black man. And I'm like, we don't know about, like, what do the other people look like properly? We don't even know what this guy looks like properly, except that he's big and black. Wow. And then the other thing that usually irritates me, which is this obsession with drugs and alcohol in some of these books, as though it's like okay and not necessarily the best coping mechanisms for life. You know, you don't want to get hooked on alcohol and pills and drugs. You know, addictions aren't good, you know? So seeing this theme pop up over and over in books, I'm like, sad. I'm sorry about the sniffling. I think I'm getting something. So finally, let me tell you what the story is about. Zoey punches the future in the dick. So Zoey has inherited this place in this location called Tabula Rasa or Table Rasa or something. And it's a world that was basically built by her father, who was wealthy. Him and these other very wealthy men that had nothing else to do. So they're like, let's go build a city. So in this city, there are a lot of very illegal things that are okay and accepted by the rest of the world apparently, and the rest of the world has similar cities, but this one was like the first one, and it's very powerful and it's very rich. Now, she didn't really know her dad, but when he died under mysterious circumstances, he left everything to her. And so she moved, since she was like dirt poor, she moved from her trailer park home with her mom to this mansion in this city. Because her father died under mysterious circumstances and everything, he had this team of people who would help him achieve certain things. So run the empire, who would be his bodyguard, that kind of thing. And they stayed on with her. Now, in this story, what's happening is that she gets called out to an incident that's happening at one of her locations that she didn't even know about. She finds out that she's actually has control over a few prostitutes-ish. And these women that work as like cuddlers, right? And based on that incident, she discovers that there is a whole group of random incel-like men who call her a cow, and they hate her. And from this, she gathers that, oh my gosh, everyone hates me. This is near Halloween, right? So I'm guessing this story begins like August, September. And there's this huge fiasco in her trying to go. She gets advised that, maybe they should just kill this guy, and they probably should have. And she doesn't do it. And she tries to fix the situation. It doesn't get fixed that well. She ends up letting the guy go. And then the guy turns up dead a while later. And the people who were like, oh my God, you psycho cow. They're like, oh my God, you psycho cow. You ate him. And from there, things just start going to hell. Because she's there trying to fix her reputation. All of her father's let's say co-conspirators and the other well-known persons in the city, they dislike her. They're like, you're nothing like your father, you have zero abilities. And on top of it, she's been trying to make some reforms in the city when it comes to the type of activities that her businesses are involved in. So she's trying to move away from prostitution. She's trying to improve the situation of the people who are living in trailer parks. She's trying to do good, as well as figuring out what's going on in the city. After this guy turns up dead, that she supposedly let go, and all of the people online are like, oh my God, she killed him, she ate him. She starts trying to figure out what happened, because he was supposed to be free. And in figuring out what happened, she finds out her mom is having an affair with this evil guy, whatever. She finds out that everyone apparently is calling her this cow, and online there's this whole version of her online that they plan on eating. She finds out that her cat apparently disappeared, and so she becomes this whole cat, and she does this whole thing that was completely unnecessary because her cat did not disappear. And all of these things, it's like she could have fixed it just by taking 5 minutes to think. So yeah, that was basically this book. Zoey punches the future in the dick. That's basically it. Does she learn a lesson? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what was the lesson that she learned. I guess your cat is at home. That's the lesson. The author tries to stick in things related to police violence in the States, to police brutality, to inequalities, and inequalities happening to poorer women, also to Afro people, that kind of thing. But she doesn't get it, and it just comes across as somebody just talking and it not really mattering, instead of it being an opportunity where the reader, I think, can learn something. So that was a missed opportunity for me, and I was like, whatever. Okay, so that's it for this book. I hope I never have to read it again. I'm thinking I may do a giveaway in case somebody wants to read this, because you actually like this kind of thing. So yeah. Next, Rivers of London. I have been wanting to read Rivers of London for a while, as I mentioned before. And when I got the opportunity, I picked it up. I was like, ooh. So what I liked about Rivers of London is that it actually mixes in a bit of magic with like contemporary things. So we have these police constables. They're in the UK, obviously. They're in the UK. They're in London specifically, and they're investigating crimes. And they've just started, and there is this murder. On the day it happens, one of the constables named Peter, he goes and he meets with someone who's like, oh, I saw everything that happened. And when he gets closer to the person, he finds out that it's actually a ghost. And the ghost tells him like, oh, it wasn't a natural crime. Something weird happened. And then he's introduced to this governor named Nightingale. And this takes him on this journey where he learns that not only do you have like normal police force that deals with normal crime, but there's also like a supernatural police force, and they deal with abnormal crimes. So they then embark on this whole adventure where he begins to learn magic, and he also begins to, or continues to learn how to be a detective, how to investigate these cases. And he's also investigated trying to speak to ghosts, trying to figure out what happens. And then he discovers that the rivers of London actually have gods, right? They're ruled by these different gods. It's cool because the stories of the gods are like persons who were about to commit suicide and they were going to do it in the river, or maybe persons who died near the river or whatever. They accept receiving, I don't know, the godhoodness, and they become gods and goddesses. So essentially this one is of the Thames. And you have the upper one that is like the old man Thames, and the lower one that's actually goddess. So it's like the god and goddess. They have this little thing because of something that happened in some year. I think it's like 1895, some year. And then because of that, there was like a split in the river. So the river actually became two rivers. And that's how you ended up having a god and goddess of the rivers. So these god and goddesses, of course, they have different tributaries. So these are their children, right? And they live together. Now, Mother Thames, Mother, like the goddess, she is like of Nigerian descent. There's this whole backstory about how she got there. And she has this whole little house with her little goddesses' children. And then Father Thames, he's like of very old Roman descent, I guess. He's like very old. And he has his whole little children, that kind of thing. But there's a struggle going on because he wants to have a certain level of respect. And she's like, dude, we're both gods and goddesses. Like, I don't have to respect you. But there's like this whole thing between that. And then there's also the murder. So the murder happens when these people who were just perfectly fine, and there are several murders. There are like 3 sets of murders. These people who were just perfectly fine, all of a sudden their faces turn into like Judy and Punch, or whichever side I put this on. Judy and Punch, the little puppet show. So their faces turn into that. And then Punch, he just like, the person who is being inhabited by the Punch spirit just goes psycho and starts beating people up and beats them to death. And then the person who was possessed, their faces go back to normal. So of course it becomes slack and they bleed out. So it's horrible. So we have like murder because people are like brutalized. And then we have this happening where your face just like falls down. Yeah. So it was intense. Like that part was really cool. What I didn't like. So there were a few things that, you know, throughout the story bothered me. Some of the storytelling, the backstory of Peter, the way, like, I think the author does try to use a bit of race and discuss race in the narrative in a way that's somewhat interesting. But I don't know. There were certain things I was like, yeah. But what really upset me was how wishy-washy Peter was with his supposed love interests, right? And it just came across as like very opportunist. If it were, sort of a like backstory to what has actually happened. If it wasn't actually like part of the narrative, I don't think it would have bothered me as much. But because it is used to move the story forward, so him liking one of the minor river goddesses and showing some interest in her, and then him also having always had a thing for his co-worker who I don't think she really has an interest in him, like, but because of that I was like, I don't know. And then of course something happens to the coworker. Like, I'm not giving this away, but something happens to the coworker and to some other people in the book, and you're like, oh. So one of the cool things, I really enjoy the ending because, okay, so in the house with Nightingale, who is his governor, they have this creature, right? We don't know what she is. She has a part to play in this book, but she apparently has a lot of teeth, and she usually like has her hair down. Okay, no, that didn't work. No, but she usually has her hair down, and she like she does this weird like suck thing. She's not a vampire, but I don't know if she is, like a ghoul. Not sure as yet. I need to read the next one. And at the end of the book, right, this guy gets his penis bitten off by a vagina. And apparently the vagina behaves just like this woman with like a lot of teeth. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I want to see that. I want to see what that's all about. So I need to read book 2. This one I actually want to read the other books because I really like how crime and investigative portion is done. I think it's well done. And the addition of the magic and so on, I liked it. Very well done. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you've read any of these 2 books, let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Even if you loved Zoey Punches the Future in the Dick, let me know why. I'm curious. Like, I'm here to discuss why. If you've read this one, also let me know. Rivers of London. I'd like to hear more people's opinions on it because I found it interesting. So thanks so much for sitting down with me. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.